Hello guys, so today we will be continuing with the class 12th legal studies, in which we were doing chapter 2 topics of law. And in the previous video we have completed law of property, and in the previous video we have started with law of contracts, right, in which we saw that what are the essential things of a contract, how an agreement becomes a contract, the general principles we saw. And then we saw this landmark judgment of Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball. Okay, so now let's come on to this next element, that is consideration. Consideration is an important element in a contract. Contract without consideration is not valid. So consideration is very important in the fact that if there is a contract in which there is no consideration, then that contract will be rendered invalid. Okay, consideration means, like, if I give you the example of two people, A and B. Okay, A is giving a plot of land to B. Say he is giving a plot of land, obviously for a certain amount of money, and B will receive that land. So for A, consideration would be that X amount of money, and for B, consideration would be the piece of land, right? So each one of them, the parties to the contract, have a consideration for themselves, and so such a contract, obviously that will be a sale contract or transfer of property sort of thing, as we discussed earlier, but it is a contract because both of them having a consideration for each other. So something in return for the offer is consideration. Consideration can be in nature of an act or forbearance. So consideration can be anything. It can be a pecuniary amount, that means something in money. It can be in the form of an act or of a deed, right? So it can be anything, but it has to flow from one side to another, from this side to this. It has to flow like this. General rule is that an agreement without consideration is void and not enforceable by law, because in such cases one party is getting something from other without giving anything to the other. So as I said, it has to flow from this to this and from this to this. Even if there is no one of the condition, then too it will be void. Okay, दोनों में से एक नहीं है तब भी void होगा, दोनों नहीं है तब तो है ही void. Because what is happening, one party is in a win-win situation, right? He is getting all the benefits out of the contract and the other party is losing. So win-lose situation नहीं होनी चाहिए, win-win situation होनी चाहिए for both the parties, wherein each of them are getting something. There should always be a mutual consideration. Mutual means both sides. In other words, each party must give and take. There are exceptions to this rule in certain situations, such as a written and registered agreement out of natural love is not void, even if it is without consideration. Consideration need not to be adequate, but it should be real. Means it should have some values in the eyes of law. It's not that I am selling a plot of land which actually would have cost rupees 10 lakhs, but I am selling it only for rupees 5 lakhs. So that's not a part. Okay, my consideration should be something which has value in the eyes of law. It should not be adequate. That adequate amount is 10 lakh, but I am selling it only for rupees 5 lakhs, so that is not adequate. But the condition is, consideration should not be adequate, but it should be real. It should be something that has to be taken or returned by the parties in the contract. And the exception to this rule is that if there is a written agreement in which out of love one person is transferring something to the other, so that would also be a sort of gift. And even if it is out of consideration, then out of love things can be transferred. Okay, consideration may be past, present or future, should not be illegal, immoral or opposed to public policy. So as I said, consideration must be something which has value in the eyes of law. It may not be adequate, but it should be real. It can be of past, present, or future, that I will give you this thing in the future, or I am giving you this thing at present, or I had gave you this thing at past, so now you convey this to me. So consideration will be past, present, or future, but it should not be anything which is against the provisions of law, which is against the societal norms, or which is considered immoral or opposed to public policy as per the societal principles which are existing at that time. Illustration. A offers to sell his car for rupees 50,000 to B. B accepts the offer. In this case, consideration of A is his car and consideration of B is rupees 50,000. Same sort of example that I gave you just now of selling and buying of piece of land, right? Then second illustration is A, for natural love and affection, promises to give his son B rupees 1,000. A puts his promise to B in writing and registered it. So now it has become a registered written agreement. This is a contract, and absence of consideration does not make it void. Absence of consideration from B's side to A's side is does not making the whole contract to be void, because now it has arisen out of love and affection from the father to his son. In an Indian case, now there comes a landmark judgment. I always say these are very important, so please mark them. These AIR numbers are not important, but the name of the case and what is in that case, that you have to learn. So Durga Prasad versus Baldev. What was the name of the case? Durga Prasad versus Baldev. Let's see what was in this. The plaintiff constructed some shops at the request of district collector in a town. Constructed shops were given for rent for doing business to the defendant. Now what happened? Plaintiff, the one who complains, okay? The plaintiff constructed some shops. District collector said that I am giving you this plot of land, and on this land you have to construct some shops on certain areas, like this. By this shop you have to construct in this plot of land that I am providing you, okay? Plaintiff, see, there are two people, plaintiff and defendant, okay? So plaintiff, this word plaint and complaint, like this is a way to differentiate. People get confused, that's why I'm telling. Complaint, plaint, and plaintiff ka plaint, same. So the one who registers the complaint or who makes the complaint is plaintiff. Can be remembered now, I guess. Okay, so plaintiff, he constructed shops because district collector ordered him, and these were sold to people and they were providing rent monthly to the constructor, and the people were doing businesses in these shops. Defendant, apart from rent, promised to give 5% commission to plaintiff on all articles sold through shop in consideration of huge amount spent by plaintiff in construction of building. And then there was a defendant who promised that because you have spent a lot of amount on construction of these shops, so I'm gonna give you 5% commission on each of the article that I will be selling from this shop. Defendant failed to pay the commission and plaintiff initiated action to recover the commission. Now what happened? Defendant had promised, but later on he was not able to pay him the 5% additional commission apart from the rent. And now the plaintiff, that is the one who constructed those shops, he filed a suit that he promised me to give the commission, he is not paying me, and to recover that he filed the suit in the court. Court rejected action of plaintiff on ground that construction of shop was done at desire of district collector and not on desire of defendant, and hence there was no consideration to give commission. Accordingly, there is no valid contract to pay commission to plaintiff. Now court said that okay, you have constructed the shops, that's fine, but it was done by the orders of district collector and not by the order or desire of the defendant. So he has no role to play. He has no obligation to pay you some commission or something like that. He is paying you rent, that's fine, but he is not obliged to pay you the additional commission on the article sold from his shop. So as such, there is no valid contract between you people, and defendant is not liable to pay you any sort of commission. So this was the verdict of the court. Now we come on to capacity to contract, means who all are able or they have the capability to enter into a contract. Any person who is major, now I am telling this from the first lecture of this chapter, I guess, that anyone who is major, who is of sound mind and who is not disqualified by law, so they are eligible to enter into a contract. Major 18 years, that is 18 plus, is competent to enter into a contract, and minors are not competent. Exception to this rule is that if a minor enters into a contract and enforcement of such is beneficial for minor, then it will not be held to be void. So any contract in which minor enters, minor is a party, it is generally void. But a contract which is enforced and it will give the benefits to the minor, it will be beneficial for the minor, then minor can be the party to that sort of contract from which some benefits are getting onto him, and that contract will not be void. Furthermore, a person should also have a sound mind. Sound mind, I've told you what it is: the ability to differentiate between good and bad, right and wrong. Right, you know that what sort of decisions you are taking, you have the capability to decide that what is good, what is bad for you, and should not be disqualified by any law in force. At the time of making contract, if person is capable of understanding the contract and making a rational judgment, he is said to have a sound mind. That's what I've told you. Following persons are not competent: minor, that is 18, less than 18 years of age; unsound mind, idiots, lunatics, drunkards; disqualified by law, alien enemies, foreign sovereign, insolvents, convicts, corporation barristers. Alien enemies means who are out of the country and they come and they form the contract. So alien enemies, foreign people, and insolvent जो कि bankrupt हो गए हैं, who don't have enough money, convicts जेल में हैं, ठीक है, they may have committed a crime or so. Now let's see what's the illustration. A major offers to sell his coat for rupees 3,000 to B, who is a minor. B accepts offer and pay rupees 3,000. A states that contract is entered into with a minor and hence void. In this case, even if the contract is entered into with a minor, it is enforceable because it is beneficial to minor and minor has performed his part of obligation in the contract. What is his part of obligation? He has paid the due amount in exchange of the coat, that is rupees 3,000. He has paid that amount, and since he is getting a coat, that is beneficial for him, so it is a valid agreement. Now we come on to consent. Consent is an important criterion while entering into a contract. When two persons agree on same thing in same sense, it is termed as consent. So consent is what? जिसको कहते हैं हिंदी में इजाज़त, आपकी मर्ज़ी है उस चीज़ में. So consent is another important criterion for entering into a contract wherein two persons are agreeing upon the same thing in the same sense. Like if I say there is a person A who is dealing in you can say oil market, who sells all types of oil, okay, all types of oil. Remember, there is another person B who wants to buy groundnut oil. Remember, person B wants to buy groundnut oil. B asks A that you give me 10 tons of oil by 10th of December 2020. Okay, have you understood what is B saying? B is asking A to provide him with 10 tons of oil by 10th December 2020. Okay, now since A is dealing with all sorts of oil, he sells it, all sorts of oil. Now A is in a confusion as to what type of oil B is demanding. Okay, so now A sells him mustard oil. Now over here, B wants groundnut oil, A selling mustard oil. Are they agreeing upon the same thing? No. So if this happens that he is giving him mustard oil, so that is not a consent, because same thing पे consent नहीं थी, and it will be a void contract. Okay, it will be a voidable contract. Now if A deals with only groundnut oil, A deals with only groundnut oil, B asks A to give him 10 tons of oil by 10th December 2020. All the conditions as in the previous case, just that A in the previous case was selling all sorts of oil, and in this case he is only selling groundnut oil. And B has asked A to give him 10 tons of oil by 10th December 2020. Now what will happen? Now there is a difference. Earlier, all sorts of oil, which type of oil he has to give, he was not able to understand. But here, when he sells only groundnut oil, so as such there is no necessity of mentioning that what kind of oil I have to get from A, because he is selling only one type. So here there will be same thing in the same sense. Thing and sense they were talking about, both these people were same in this case. So that's how and where the difference lies. I hope you have understood. Consent should be free and not caused by coercion, undue influence, misrepresentation, fraud or mistake. In future or in some time you will be seeing what this term means. Coercion means by forcing somebody, like you have put a gun on somebody's head and you are asking him to transfer the plot of land or transfer his jewelry to you. So that will be a coercion, because you are forcing that person to enter into the contract. Undue influence is also same like coercion. Misrepresentation is when you are misrepresenting that I want to sell this horse and I know that this horse is not of sound mind, but I am presenting horse to be of sound mind. I am selling it to somebody else. So that is misrepresenting, and that is also fraud. Okay, so fraud everybody knows. Mistake is a mistake of fact, mistake of law that you will see in future. All these 5 terms. And if any of the contract is entered into by coercion, undue influence, misrepresentation, fraud or mistake, then it becomes voidable from the side of the person whose consent was not free. If there are 2 people, A and B, A has put a gun on B's head and say that transfer all the jewelry which you are having to me, give it all to me. So that would be a voidable contract on part of B, because his consent was not free. Illustration: A threatened to kill B if he does not sell his house to A. B, out of fear, signs the contract for selling his house to A. Here, consent of B is not free. B can later avoid the sale on ground that he was compelled to agree to the sale and consent given was not free consent. So here, in this case, it is avoidable agreement on part of the person whose consent was not free, and over here B's consent was not free, so he can later on cancel the agreement on the ground that he was compelled, he was threatened, and so his consent was out of fear, not free. What I am saying, out of fear and not free. Okay, now unlawful agreements that I will be taking up in the next video. Thank you.